This is Chapter 10, The End of the Road, Part 2, from a story called The Time-Dilated Generations, by Esteban Gallardo. Ellie took a deep breath. This was it. She pressed the transmission button, her voice clear, steady, but her heart was pounding in her chest. Command control to Endeavor. You have permission to engage. Godspeed, Daniel. A brief silence, then Daniel's voice came through, smooth and confident as ever. Roger. Launching protocol initiated in 20 seconds. Then he looked directly into the camera, that same beautiful, irresistible smile that had always managed to make Ellie's heart skip a beat, even after all these years. And with the teasing gleam in his eye, he said, I don't need God to give me speed. I already have you. Ellie groaned, shaking her head. Don't be so cheesy, cowboy. Just promise you'll come back. Always. Daniel's voice was soft, but unwavering. She wanted to believe him. She needed to. 5 seconds. Across the moon base and Earth's underground cities, every living human was watching. This was the culmination of their struggle. If the test succeeded, their ability to reach and colonize new worlds would increase tenfold. The stakes had never been higher. Hope had never burned brighter. 4 seconds. Daniel activated the biological reinforcement compound, flooding his bloodstream with the same formula that had once saved his life 20 years ago. Over the past 2 decades, the compound hadn't changed in power. There were still limits to how much G-force the human body could endure. But what had improved was its duration. This dose would last twice as long, allowing Daniel to withstand sustained acceleration for an extended period. 3 seconds. Leo stood beside Ellie in the control room. He watched his father with a mixture of pride and torment. For years, he had been prepared to take this mission himself. He was ready, in every way, but his parents had denied him the chance. They had told him he was too valuable, that his role in training the next generation of pilots was more important than any one mission. Leo wasn't stupid. He knew the truth. His parents were protecting him. If Daniel hadn't been in extraordinary physical shape, Leo would have fought back. But when he looked into his father's eyes, he saw something there. A fire, a need, a calling. This wasn't just science for Daniel. This is who he was. Leo clenched his mother's shaking hands, trying to steady her trembling fingers. 2 seconds. Ellie's grip was tight, too tight. Leo held on, offering silent reassurance, even though he, too, was terrified. 1 second. On screen, the ship's instrument readings flashed green. Both the nuclear drive and the enhanced offloading inertial mass drive were operating at peak efficiency. No errors, no anomalies. Everything was ready. Liftoff. The thrusters roared to life. The Endeavor surged forward, launching at 20 Gs, a force that would have been unbearable without the protective compound coursing through Daniel's body. Only 60 seconds after launch, the improved offloading inertial mass drive reached its peak efficiency of 95%. For those watching, it was nothing short of a miracle. On screen, they could see it in real time. The helium-3 fuel consumption dropped dramatically, the ship slicing through the void with almost no resistance. It moved effortlessly, as if the laws of physics had been rewritten. A century ago, such a feat would have been dismissed as pure fantasy, the work of dreamers and science fiction writers. But here it was, real, tangible, undeniable. The Endeavor's target velocity was a staggering 99% of light speed. Reaching that speed would take 15 hours, and for this test, Mission Control had carefully selected a new deep space corridor, the vast orbit between Uranus and Neptune. At 4 billion kilometers from the Sun, there was a 700 million kilometer gap between the ship's trajectory and the planets. That distance was necessary. At these speeds, even the faintest gravitational pull from a planet could suddenly disrupt the ship's delicate propulsion system. It wasn't just Endeavor's propulsion system that had evolved. The sensor drones had also been revolutionized. Once the size of small cars, they had now been miniaturized to be only slightly larger than a basketball. Lighter, faster, more efficient. With 6 sensors deployed, spaced 30 light minutes apart, they stretched across a massive section of space. Had they been aligned in a straight line from the Sun, the final drone would have been positioned at the edge of Neptune's orbit, a vast web of intelligence, detecting every microscopic anomaly in the ship's path. For the next 15 hours, humanity was restless. On Earth and the Moon, no one slept. People gathered around screens, watching every incremental update. Each kilometer gained, each milestone reached, it was a step closer to the future once thought impossible. Command Control, knowing the stakes, introduced a 5-minute delay in the broadcast, just enough time to allow for reaction and contingency measures in case something went wrong. Nothing could go wrong, not now. Meanwhile, Daniel rested, or rather, he tried to. At his age, true sleep was a rare thing. His body remained motionless, restrained by the high G-forces, but his mind was fully awake. And in those long, silent hours, he reflected on his life's work, on Ellie, on Leo, on how impossibly fortunate he had been to have loved, to have raised his son, to have played a role in humanity's greatest endeavor. He smiled to himself, feeling a strange, deep peace. He had always been honest with Ellie, but not this time. Daniel was dying. The doctors had confirmed it. The final stages of cancer, brought on by a lifetime of cosmic radiation exposure. It had always been a possibility, a risk he had accepted long ago. He had only months left, and he was at peace with that. But he wanted to give something back, one last contribution before he was gone. Ellie had never pushed beyond 99% light speed, not because she couldn't, but because she wouldn't. She had never trusted that the system would remain stable beyond that limit. Daniel knew better. He knew her work could go farther, and he was going to prove it. 15 hours after launch, Endeavour finally reached 99% of light speed. The tension in the control room was unbearable. Every monitor, every set of eyes locked on the data stream, waiting. The ship's propulsion systems were pushed to their absolute limits. Would they hold? Would the stability remain intact? The longest hour of their lives passed. Then, finally, the confirmation came. They had done it. They had reached 99% of the speed of light, and the system was stable. The explosion of emotion that followed was uncontrollable. For hours, the control room had been frozen in tension, waiting for the outcome that would determine humanity's future. And now, all at once, it erupted. People screamed, people hugged, people cried. On Earth and the Moon, it was the same. Celebrations breaking out in every surviving colony, because this wasn't just a test flight. This was freedom. This was a future. For the first time, colonization of the true stars was no longer a distant dream. It was real. The galaxy was wide open. That was Chapter 10, The End of the Road, Part 2, from a story called The Time-Dilated Generations, by Esteban Gallardo. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next time.